a best practice which will be accepted internationally.
Call Eugenie Sage.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was a very interesting explanation by Mr. Roy, but I am still puzzled as to why this, and we can understand the code of practice around hazing, but it's around this fundamental change that herds of special interest are now no longer going to be established to so that they're managed for recreational hunting purposes, which means that they can be managed then for trophy hunting purposes and for completely undercutting the previous thrust of the bill, which was about promoting recreational hunting. But would just like to talk, Mr. Chair, about clause 16 and the whole process of designation of herds of special interest, because the Select Committee did include some more specific criteria in there to ensure that the Minister did take a number of matters into account that weren't in the original bill, including the purposes of the Wild Animal Control Act. And there were a number of submissions on the bill from regional councils, and like the Auckland Council, for example. And that's where, again, I think this SOP is also of concern with the other change that it makes, because the SOP amends the definition of game animal to include chamois, deer, tahr and wild pigs that are kept in captivity. And kept in captivity is quite a loose term when you're talking about safari parks. Extensive areas in North Canterbury and Marlborough where animal numbers are allowed to increase quite significantly. They run, and hunters who are paying for the privilege get a very easy opportunity to shoot an animal. So I would ask the Minister and the Chair, who hasn't said anything during this debate, if he could explain why the definition of game animals has been expanded to include these animals that are run in safari parks. Because potentially, as I read the bill, that means that herds of special interest could be established in these safari parks on private land. And the problem with that is the potential implications it has for pest management, because the Auckland Regional Council was quite adamant in its submission that the bill should make it clear that the herds of special interest should only be able to be established on conservation lands, and once an animal was no longer in its designated area, it could be managed in accordance with other legislation, i.e. the Biosecurity Act. We don't have deer everywhere in New Zealand. In Northland, for example, there's been a major effort by the Regional Council there to control deer numbers and prevent the establishment of feral deer populations. So if the bill with this SOP is loosening the provisions around safari parks, it means that regional councils and the Animal Health Board, TB Free New Zealand, is going to have less ability to control animals like feral pigs to prevent the spread of bovine TB, and to make sure that landowners on those areas actually have proper fencing in place so that the animals don't escape. So could the Minister please explain what this whole expansion of the definition of game animals to include animals in captivity is all about, why that is required when the bill has been promoted as being about improving recreational hunting in the first instance. So, Mr. Chair, I put in there's three supplementary order papers in my name which relate to clause 16. So the number of matters that the Minister has to have regard to has been expanded, and they include things like taking advice from the Ministry of Primary Industries, primarily around biosecurity issues, from any relevant regional council, from the Conservation Authority and any relevant conservation board, and also having to look at the actual status of the conservation land. And that was another important change that the Select Committee made to the bill, that you don't just have herds of specified interest being established, but you actually have to designate the land area that they relate to. So the concern here that the supplementary order paper seeks to address is that at the moment some of these introduced species are located in specific areas, like the white-tailed deer population is only found on Rakiura Stewart Island. The Himalayan tahr population is found in the central southern Alps between about the Rangitata River and the Landsborough River. Keeping those animals confined to a particular range is really important. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Does the member want a call?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You must ask for the call.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. May I have a call, please? Thank you, Mr. Chair. So preventing the expansion in the feral range of these introduced animals is critical in managing their impacts on introduced biodiversity. So my SOP number 399 seeks to ensure that the Minister has another matter to consider, and that is that the designation as a herd of special interest will not lead to an expansion in the feral range and won't prevent its range being contracted as animal numbers are controlled. Because we all know that some hunters like to take animals, plant them in other areas to expand their hunting opportunities. That is highly irresponsible, and particularly in relation to feral pigs, because it spreads bovine TB, because it spreads the pest impacts by expanding their range. The other SOP 400 I've talked about previously, to prevent herds of special interest being established in national parks. And the third SOP in relation to Part 1 is number 401, and would encourage the national members to consider this seriously too, that it makes very clear by adding an additional section 16B that the Minister can withdraw the designation of a herd of special interest at any time, and can restrict the location and area of conservation land where that herd of special interest is managed, and that he would consult the organisations that are already listed in the clause, such as the Minister for Primary Industries, the Department of Conservation, regional councils, Conservation Authority and conservation boards. And the reason for doing that is it may become quite obvious that the Game Animal Council is not adequately managing the biodiversity impacts of herds of special interest, that they have allowed the populations to expand to make it easier to go hunting, and that through the browsing impacts, is affecting a lot of our threatened plant species and damaging habitat. So the Minister has to have the power to actually be able to uplift that designation or to reduce the area that it applies to. So it is a belts and braces approach, as Ruth Dyson has noted, but it is a sensible one to make clear that the Minister has those powers, and I would encourage the government members to consider it seriously. Thank you.
Members.
Please may I have a call, Mr. Chairman?
Just can I just explain why I mentioned to the member, just by continuing standing after your 5 minutes is up doesn't mean that you'll get the next call. You must call out Mr. Chairman. That's the second time you did it. I didn't pull you up the first time, but just for reference in the future, just ask for the call again by Mr. Chairman. So it's Phil Twyford's asked for the call, and I'm going to give Mr. Twyford...
Please, Mr. Chairman, may I have a call? Thank you.